Professionals reclassified and how much is too much?
On this episode of Simply Necessary Conversations.
So I feel like we have to talk about the Trump administration is proposing some reclassifications of some typically considered professional careers, jobs, whatever you want to call it. And I wanted to grab some facts so I wouldn't be talking fiction.
Please provide the facts.
And this is the list that is not considered professional under the Trump administration. I tried to do some research. I'm not sure how much of this was originally considered professional that is no longer being considered professional versus these are things that people think should be considered professional that aren't.
I would think in order to make the list, they would have previously been considered, and now they're
For
not.
For sure, nursing is one of the professions that was considered professional in kind of like a Department of Education database that helps you qualify for loans and grants and all that type of stuff. But this is the list that Newsweek posted online. Nursing, physician assistants, physical therapists, audiologists, architects, accountants, educators, and social workers. Obviously, I would consider all of those professional careers and very essential to the fabric of our country because you need all of those people. But a lot of people are talking about the impact that this has on students. USA Today reported that currently the definition is being used in discussions surrounding student loan caps under the Trump administration's Big Beautiful Bill, which could drastically impact how much students are allowed to borrow. The bill eliminates the Grad Plus loan program, which has historically helped students pursue careers in medicine, law, and other training-intensive careers, and places caps on the Parent Plus program, limiting them to $20,000 per year per student with a $65,000 total limit. Graduate students pursuing professional degrees on the defined list are able to borrow up to $50,000 per year and up to $200,000 overall. But for students in graduate programs that are not considered professional degrees, loans are capped at $20,500 per year. Graduate programs are limited to $100,000 overall. Basically, a lot of people that were, I'm sure, counting on loans and funds from, the Department of Education and on these programs are now potentially at risk for not being able to receive that because they're not a professional degree. So what is your thoughts?
Well, I got 3 primary thoughts. I'm gonna try to keep them straight. First thing, if you have to go to college and get a 4-year degree or anything beyond, to me, if that's a requirement to work in those professions, then that's a profession. That's, if I gotta go to school, put the time in, pay the money, then that's that. Second, maybe controversial thought that I have is some people do abuse the system in that they become lifetime students and use it as a way to keep from having to actually get a job. They just go to school and go to school and go to school and keep getting student loans and using that money to survive off of instead of actually getting a job. So I feel like some of them are a partial catalyst for what caused this to happen. Now they were gonna do nasty because they do nasty.
I don't think this has anything to do with that.
Okay, well I'm giving all my thoughts. So some people do abuse the system. But however, if you declassify or you notch these down and people decide because they've been notched down that they either A, can't afford to now go to school because they can't access enough money, they can't get the loans or whatever, or B, they don't want to do it because now if the profession is looked down upon or is considered less than, where are we going to get these people? We need nurses. I have told people many, many times, because unfortunately I have had relatives that have needed long-term care in hospitals and rehab facilities and stuff. You see the nurses every day. You see the nurses multiple times each day. You might see the doctor once or twice a day if you're lucky or if it's necessary, but nurses are the primary caregivers when you are in a facility, even when you go home. Doctors don't come to your house. I've never seen a doctor come to anybody's house that doesn't have concierge medicine, but I have seen nurses come out and take my dad's blood pressure and check his oxygen and make sure that his meds are doing whatever. I've seen that. So we are now, as American citizens, being put in very volatile positions because politicians and people in power are giving the middle finger to important people. Those people are going to walk away from those professions and the rest of us are going to suffer and pay for it.
I feel like this isn't how you help the economy.
No, ma'am.
By making it harder for people to get an education. I feel like this country makes it so difficult for willing, ready, very determined people to get an education for industries that we need. Why are we making it harder for people to become doctors and nurses and physical therapists and social workers and teachers?
You know what? You know why they're making it hard, in my humble opinion, is because they want to dumb down the country. They do this. Certain people in politics right now hate knowledge and education. The less educated a person is, the less informed a person is, it is easier for them to be manipulated, and that is the goal. The education has already been so watered down. My students now versus students I taught in the past, their vocabulary is so limited. Their knowledge is so limited.
Yeah.
And then you add in and factor in the fact that history is longer and longer. So like they're already not going to have some historical knowledge because we got so much modern history in between. So you take that away. They don't know how to read in cursive. They don't know how to do so many things that were just things that were expected of us growing up. So they want these people to be uninformed voters. They don't want them to be voters, but if they're gonna vote, they want them to vote uninformed. They want them to vote based on charisma and who has the funniest line and who can make the funniest TikToks and all that kind of stuff. It is the education system has been targeted for destruction for a long time.
But, and you know, some people I saw on social media were saying that it seems like a lot of the professions that aren't being considered professional anymore, possibly not being considered professional anymore if this thing passes, is women-led industries.
That too.
Nurses,
That too.
social workers, educators. A lot of those industries are led by women. And so I forget what TikToker it was said it, but they were like, it seems like the whole goal is, okay, women are homemakers and barefoot and pregnant, and they don't need to be in these fields.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's a lot of different things that you could pull out and be like, oh, well, that might cause this to happen, or that might cause this to happen.
Yeah.
But I just feel like I don't understand why something like this is even necessary to discuss. If we had the money before, where's the money going now? If we had the funds to help educate these people before, why are we cutting programs that are helping people not depend on government funds in terms of SNAP benefits and all of that?
To kind of touch on something that you said, I noticed early on, maybe even in the first iteration, if a man in this administration was accused of something, no matter how heinous it was, they rolled for them and they resisted kicking them out. Like they did everything they could to keep them, and in some cases they did keep people that should have been kicked out. If a woman was accused or, oh, well, okay, they would let her go easily. This current political system, the people, the majority that's in charge, are very anti-woman, anti-education, anti-immigrant, anti-anything that is not rich and powerful. So this is just another slap in the face. This is another middle finger to people because education is the bridge between the have and the have-nots. If you grow up without money, but you become educated, you can get into a profession, you can elevate yourself socially and economically. They don't want that. They want the 2% and then the 98%, and they do not want a bridge in between.
It seems like if you put all the pieces together, it makes a clear picture. Because if you're blocking people from getting an education, you're laying off people from all of their jobs. Like there are so many layoffs happening across so many different random industries and random companies that you wouldn't think are related.
Connected,
But if you're laying off people so that way they're not able to afford the education or afford advancement, and then you're also not allowing people to get government funding to get not grants but loans that they have to pay back, then you just get to a point where nobody is able to work, nobody has any degrees that mean anything, and it's just a vicious cycle of being beholden to the government or to other people or whatever.
Yeah. I will say this. There was a pastor about maybe 30 years ago that did a sermon at a church that I was going to, and he said, when you are planning what you're going to have for breakfast, when you are planning what's going to happen to you in the next couple of days, y'all ignore my phone is ringing off camera. I don't know if y'all going to be able to hear that, but it'll stop. But when you are planning your day-to-day life, what you're going to do tomorrow, whatever stuff, there is somebody behind closed doors planning for the next 20, 30 years. None of this was by mistake. Project 2025, they learned from the first time around what the roadblocks were and what stopped them from getting away with things, and now they have fixed their strategy. All of this is intentional. People being harmed and hurt, people being denied services, people being denied life-changing and life-affirming services and assistance. It is not by mistake. It's not one of those things where we cut this and, oh, we didn't know this was going to affect people. The goal is, the cruelty is the point. The goal is to make people suffer. Now, why? I don't know. I understand greed. I understand power lust. But just pure evil, just pure.
Well, but I think it
cruelty,
goes back
I don't understand.
I think it goes back to any point in history where if this is going to be a weird comparison, but in theme, if you look at the movie Wicked, the whole point of the movie is that there has to be an other. So you don't know what's going on over here. So you're focused on this other issue.
For a whiz to exist,
there has to be an other.
Yeah.
So I feel like the same thing can exist in real life, where if we're the regular people down here that aren't rich, that aren't famous, that aren't politicians, that have no power in theory, if we're arguing amongst ourselves because we don't have no job, we can't get degrees, we're struggling to put food on the table, there are no more SNAP benefits, we're all arguing and worried about that, we're not looking at the bigger picture.
We're not following the money. We're not following money. And I will say this, I can't remember which president said it, but because there's a racial aspect to this too. Some people might want to argue that there's not, but there's a racial aspect to this too. One of the ways that certain people and certain political parties were able to be successful was to convince people that it was about race and to weaponize race. Because if I can take somebody that is a non-minority and convince them that all these others are your problem, then they're not going to pay attention to what I'm doing to them. So if you are one of the non-minorities that thought that all this evil was going to be heaped upon everybody else, I hope you get what you voted for and you get what you deserve, in that if you lost your benefits, if you lost your job, if you can't afford, if you lost your SNAP, all that stuff, if you're one of those people that lost those things but you voted for this administration thinking it was going to hurt other people, I hope you all the things you voted for, I hope it visits your front door. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, moving on to something that's a little bit related, is a study came out saying that a single adult with no children needs a minimum income of $106,745 per year before taxes to live comfortably in the U.S. And now I know this is dependent on where in the U.S., but when I saw that number, I was just like, who makes that much money?
Yeah.
What regular person makes that much money?
Not many people.
A year before taxes.
Before taxes, not many people.
And when I looked through the comments, I saw so many people that were just like, oh yeah, like 100 and something feels like 80K. And I'm just like, 80K is nice too.
I think it depends on the part of the country you live in.
But I feel like for Let Me Put Y'all On, I feel like we could talk about what do you think you need to, and we can only talk about Florida just because that's where we are. Yeah. And we don't know the expenses that exist in other states and the property taxes and all that type of stuff. But I feel like in Florida, you do not need $100,000 a year to live comfortably.
Especially if they say single with no kids, right?
Yes, I feel like that's to live lavishly.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you need a minimum of somewhere between $45,000 and $50,000 a year pre-tax to live in Florida. You know, I don't know other people's spending habits. I don't know, and I'm speaking as someone that kind of had a head start with stuff, and I don't have certain bills that other people have. If you got the typical expenses, if you got a car payment, you got a mortgage, you got something, I'm gonna say you need about 60. But I think you can survive in Florida. You can survive off of $50,000 to $60,000 a year. Survive. Not live lavishly, but survive.
The thing was live comfortably. So I think that to live comfortably, and when I think comfortably,
that's the word,
is you need 70, I would say.
It depends on what you mean by comfort, because your comfort, it might be different for some people.
I'm counting into the equation that some people will have student loans in order to get to the position where they're making $70,000 a year.
Okay.
So you're gonna have student loans.
Okay.
You're gonna have car. Maybe you choose to buy a house. Maybe
Mortgage
you're
or
renting.
rent, yeah.
But if you want to live comfortably, that means you're living in a good area that's close to your job. And what's close to my job is expensive as hell.
Yeah.
So
Don't say
I
hell.
feel like you need at least $70,000 to live comfortably. You can live off of 40 or 50,
but
and
yeah.
have a happy life and be able to take care of stuff.
You're not going to be able to have some of the simple pleasures that
And
other
I feel
people
like
enjoy.
most people aren't gonna always be alone.
Yeah.
You're gonna eventually have a significant other that you might want to treat to a date, or y'all want to go on vacation, or y'all end up having a kid.
And even if
like-
you're alone now, you got to plan for the possibility of kids. So like, where does
Exactly.
the preparation for that? I don't know. I just know that
And I'm the type of person I love a good
I
shopping. and
hear
food
all the
trip,
time
so.
people say people live from paycheck to paycheck. I'm not living from paycheck to paycheck, but I also know that most of us could not live very long if paychecks stopped. I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. As long as the paycheck is coming in, I got a little cushion. If the paycheck stopped, I would need to find another paycheck in order to be able to continue to survive and live and not have to depend on assistance. Thankfully, I've never had to live and need public assistance or whatever. Some people have, but when I hear people make $30,000 or
Yeah, I
in the
don't
20,
see how you
like
live
how
on
are
that.
you living? Especially if you got kids, like how are you doing that? My heart goes out to anybody that in that situation, cause how? Like where is the wiggle room? Like there's no wiggle room at all.
And I feel like living comfortably also means that you're having some portion saved for emergencies.
Yeah, because you need a savings.
Because I think a lot of people think live comfortably, but they're not thinking about the future of saving.
There are
and-
many people that think as long as I can pay my bills. What happens if there's an extra bill? What happens
Exactly.
when the car needs to be repaired? What happens when you need another car? What happens if somebody gets sick and can't go to work? Or you go to the hospital and now you got that
Yeah.
$10,000 bill. And let's not forget people that don't have medical, vision, and dental benefits.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole different thing. A visit to the doctor for people that have insurance is a copay. Copay $30 to $50. Most copays, if you got a somewhat what we normally thought was a professional position, $30 to $50. People without insurance are going to pay 10, sometimes 100 times that much for the same visit. So that's one of those things, and I talk to my students about it from time to time. That's how the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. You got a good job, you got benefits, so you pay less. No job, no benefits, you pay more. Like what?
And I also
how does that
think
make
that
sense?
it depends on what your job is. Because, like, for instance, an influencer could make $40,000, $50,000 a year, but they're getting free vacations, they're getting free products, they're getting a lot of freebies that aren't necessarily quantified
But do they have
in
to
the
pay for
salary.
their own medical and stuff? Because
Well,
that's
true.
going to significantly
Or
reduce
you
that
can have
amount.
a job where you work from home, so you're not putting miles on your car. You're not
You don't have
using
to have
gas.
wardrobe and all kinds
You
of stuff.
have more time to get stuff done. You might have time to have a second job because you're working
Yeah.
for, like, I feel like it depends on what your industry is. It depends on what you consider living comfortably, where you want to live, what city you're in, because living comfortably in Polk County is different than living comfortably in Hillsborough County.
or Orange County. I am a strong believer that anybody that gets up, works a full-time job, pays taxes, should be able to have the bare necessities in life. Like I think the system should be set up where if you work a 40-hour week, not 60, not 80, everybody should be able to work
You
a
shouldn't have to
40-hour
have
week.
multiple
You should
jobs
not
to
have to have
survive.
multiple jobs. You shouldn't have to struggle to be able to afford a car. You should not have to struggle to be able to put food on your table. Like in a country where there are billionaires, in a country where we got a Congress that votes themselves raises every year, in a country where we pay for their medical benefits, we pay for all the things that they are having for them to vote every year and say, nah, it ain't in the budget for us. It's time for something to change. It's time for people to wake up and rise up and say, if we can't have it, you can't have it either. When that government layoff was going on, Congress should not shut down. Yeah, government shut down. Congress should not have gotten a single check until they worked that thing out. And Congress needs to write into law, if they are fair and just Congress and truly about representation and not about enriching themselves, they should put into law, if there's a government shutdown and government workers are not paid, Congress should not be able to get a check until we work it out, because that's an incentive. That's going to put a fire up under their butts. Congress should not be able to vote themselves a raise unless and until everybody in this country has some kind of basic health care. All of those things, when I say we, I don't mean we, but I'm gonna say we. I'm gonna use the word we. We are fools and we are stupid to keep allowing the same people that we are paying and taking care of to tell us that there's not enough money to take care of us. It's time for that to be over.
This is a good segue because what had happened was that I wanted to talk about was former Vice President Kamala Harris said that she believes the voting age could possibly, she thinks that it would be reasonable for the voting age to be lowered to 16. So while we're talking about all of this change that we want to happen, I feel like that could be one of the solutions to how we get to better policies for younger people, for regular people that don't have an ulterior motive and agenda.
I'm going to disagree with Kamala. While I understand the logic, because, and I talk about this and I have talked about it for years with my students, and I tell them as soon as you're eligible to vote, register and vote, because the people that making decisions are one foot on a banana peel and one in the grave, so they don't necessarily care about these policies because they're not going to live long enough for them to affect them. Because the average congressperson probably is in there like on the low end 60s, and some of them are 80, almost 90 years old, got no business making decisions about anything. Not to say the elderly people should not be respected and revered. I'm saying the policies that you're making, in a lot of ways, you are too disconnected from what's happening in popular society and pop culture for you to be making decisions about those kind of things. So I understand that young people should have a voice. 16-year-olds, in my humble opinion, as someone that has worked with many a 16-year-old, are too immature and not thoughtful enough. 18, I agree with. 18 and up, I definitely agree with. But 16, to me, we're talking about somebody that won't turn in their homework. We're talking about somebody that thinks that, getting high before school might make sense. Like, not in every case, because every 16-year-old is not a monolith, but I think 16 is too young.
What my counter argument is, I feel like there's a lot of people that are 70 years old that are incredibly immature, incredibly unintelligent, and don't understand what's going on in the world.
Opposite ends of the same thing.
Or they simply don't care what's going on in the world because they know they're not going to live for another 50 years. I feel like, I don't know why my voice is sounding like this.
I don't know.
I feel like younger people care more because we're going to be alive.
But are they going to make, because we're talking about the same people that are less literate, have a limited vocabulary, who do not value education in a certain kind of way.
I think if you empower younger people to actually be able to not just say things, but utilize their voice, it might incentivize them to actually care. And I will argue, this isn't the case for everyone, but I will argue at the age of 16, me and my friends knew what was going on.
I got a solution. Miss Kamala, people in politics, I got a solution. Just like how they have to take and prove that they're ready to drive by taking a driving test, I think if listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully.
This is a very slippery slope.
Listen to me carefully. At 16, if they can take and pass a basic civics test that shows that they know how government is supposed to work,
but you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
I think the voting age should be 18 unless you can prove at an earlier age that you are aware of. But it's going to evolve into Jim Crow laws of people having to take tests. I'm not saying no.
I don't think you should ever make someone take a test to be able to have a voice in the country.
Okay, I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying if you want to be able to vote early, so let's say the voting age is 18, but if you prove that you are mature enough to understand how civics and politics work at an earlier age, I think treat it as a privilege. Voting age stays at 18, but if you can take and pass a civics test prior to 18, that's when you can vote.
What about students that have good ideas, that know what's going on, but they don't have the access to education because they're in the public school system to be able to pass the civics test?
It's never going to be a perfect system. 16. I'm saying 18 and up automatically can vote. If you want to vote early, then that incentivizes, because this incentivizes students to care about politics and civics.
Are we going to make old people that might potentially have Alzheimer's
and I think
or
once
dementia
you get that right, I think once you get the right, you keep it for the rest of your life.
Because you're saying that 16-year-olds aren't mature enough or responsible enough or know enough. Older people might have lost those abilities.
Okay.
So now because the same logic applies for a driving test. Older people at a certain age, you have to retake a driving test to be able to operate a vehicle.
Well, and let me just say this. I would be okay with that, but there's a lot of older people and people
but I
that would
feel
take
like-
offense to that. I'm just saying, we're talking about not taking away a right. We're talking about granting an extra privilege or extra right. So to me, because like I said, I've worked with many a 16-year-old. They are not very mature. They're not very thoughtful. But if but let me just say, I have worked with some 16-year-olds that were way more wise and intelligent than
I
some
don't
older
think
people.
you can't quantify someone's voting ability based on maturity, because I know a lot of adult people
It's
that
not
are
based on
incredibly
maturity.
immature.
It's based on knowledge. If you can show that
But I know a lot of adult people that have zero knowledge about what's going on in this country, and they're still voting.
Well, I'm gonna just say in those cases, them's the break. Like, there has to be some kind of line of demarcation. There has to be something that determines how we're going to do this. So I personally think 18 and up should be the voting age if you can prove by, as the Bible say, if you can study to show yourself approved.
But I feel like if
Then
you start
you
making,
can go
if
ahead
you
and start doing that.
It's going to be a slippery slope of you're making a law to have to vote, and now, well, what if we make that for 18-year-olds too? What if we make that for black people?
Well, then I'm gonna just say
to
hard no on 16-year-olds and anybody younger than that voting, because like I really do not think that they have the preparation and or knowledge, or that they are going to take it seriously.
But Mom, what you're not understanding is there's a lot of grown people that
I
have
can
lived for 30,
see that, but
40
that's
years
just life. I can see that. That's just like saying, okay, everybody has to drive the speed limit all the time. We know that that's never going to happen, but we still have a speed limit. We're going to treat this just like the speed limit. Here's what the speed limit is. This is what the law says. There are going to be times when there's exceptions.
Based on my knowledge of what I learned in history up until the age of 16.
Talking about you though, you're exceptional. I said
But
she's
what I'm
exceptional.
saying, but
You're exceptional,
regardless
but no.
of how much I understood it or didn't understand it, the information that's presented to everybody in generally the same format. I had a certain type of schooling. I've talked to friends and stuff that have had different schooling.
As somebody that works at a school and has worked at more than one school, it's not the same
you're talking about one
everywhere.
school, and I'm talking about combined knowledge of several different people from all different walks of life. We've all learned the same, at least Gen Z specifically, has all learned the same history in Florida. That's all I can.
No, they haven't.
Okay.
Trust me, as somebody that has worked at multiple schools, parents, you could be in the same, you could be at a schools right down the street from each other. It's not going to always be the same.
There's certain requirements of you teach these things to students up until this age.
Right.
That's a requirement.
Right. It's supposed to be.
And we can't be like, well, this teacher was a good teacher, and this teacher, we can't do that, because that's the case for everybody that exists in the world, even once they're old.
Okay.
Based on the knowledge that you're taught up until 16, you have, in my opinion, you have enough historical knowledge to be able to decide whether one candidate is good and one candidate. We're not talking about complex things here. We're talking about whether one person is going to be good for the country or bad for the country. It's not that hard to process.
I respectfully disagree. I mean, are there some 16-year-olds that can make an informed decision? Absolutely. The majority of them.
But the majority of people can't make informed decisions.
I get it, but there has to be some kind of line drawn. Like, we're not letting toddlers drive. Like, there has to be some place where there's a line.
At 16, you have a brain. You have some functionings of a regular brain to be able to understand basic concepts.
But it's not fully formed, and
it's not fully formed at 18.
Yeah.
Your brain isn't fully formed until you're
but
25.
At 18,
so are we going to make the age 25?
Well, let's do this then. If they can vote at 16, then they should be able to have to go to the military at 16. Like, the reason that they changed the law and let 18-year-olds vote is because they can be drafted into the military at 18. Are we gonna draft 16-year-olds into the military? Because here's the thing. I just worked it out this just came to me. One of the reasons why 18-year-olds can vote and the argument for them to be able to vote was because they perform. Because if you're gonna go and fight for a country, and you should have full rights in the country. But the reasoning wasn't because people thought that 18-year-olds should have the right to vote. The reasoning was they want people in the military, so they make the age as low as they feel is reasonable. Okay, but because at 18 you are required to register for the draft, that's why
it's not based on any logic. It's literally just based on, we want these people to go and fight and possibly put their lives on the line for the country.
And because they are in line to provide that service, that's how they get the right to vote. 16-year-olds.
But that doesn't make them suddenly smarter.
No, it doesn't. But if I don't care how smart you are, if you facing down bullets every day on behalf of the country, then you should have full rights in that country.
I feel like that's irrelevant to this whole conversation.
So you got to pay the cost to be the boss. You got to be in it to win it. If you are 18 and they can tell you put on a uniform and go face down bullets
But
and
it's
enemies
not,
for the
it-
country,
but
you
it
have a
never
right to
was
vote at that
about
point.
whether politicians or whoever makes these decisions. It wasn't about them thinking that 18-year-olds were suddenly so much more mature. They just want them to go fight for the country.
And they had to give them the right to vote in order to make that fair. So I'm just saying.
But
if
that don't mean anything to me.
16-year-old, okay. I'm way older than you. Okay, so
We know.
now 16-year-olds can vote. Can they sign legal contracts? As a parent now, am I?
16-year-olds can drive. Can they sign legal contracts?
So wait a minute though. So does that automatically emancipate them from their parents, so their parents are no longer responsible for any? Because right now,
You can get emancipated at
you
16.
can, but I'm just saying, right now, as a 16-year-old, you're still considered a minor. Therefore, your parents.
I don't think
So
one
I'm
thing
saying
influences the other at all.
You can't start. You get rights here, but over here
You
you're
have
still
the
a
right
child.
to drive a car that could kill somebody at 16. That does not automatically mean that they're an adult. Like the two things are unrelated.
But 16-year-olds are considered minors and under the jurisdiction of their parents. Let's expand this all the way out, because I'm always thinking, So now what happens? Of course, they would not have any way of knowing for sure. But now you got 16-year-olds voting for. But for the most part, if they're in certain kind of households, their parents gonna tell them who to vote for.
A 16-year-old don't do nothing else. Their parents tell them, so why don't they listen to who to vote for?
So now we're gonna.
I'm just saying, like, that's irrelevant.
There's a
because they're not
lot of
gonna be able to check
16-year-olds
that.
who won't know any better, and all they're gonna be is an extension of their parents voting.
But there's a lot of 16-year-olds
There's
that
a lot
will
of
be the
adults that are
opposite.
the same way.
But there's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of 16-year-olds that are going to be the
I don't
opposite
know.
of how
I
their
think
parents are voting.
This is for those of you that think that we agree on everything. All my family members that seem to think that she just parrots everything I say. This is an example of we don't agree
But-
on everything, because I disagree.
And 16, like I'm saying that I feel like if old people can vote, young people should be able to vote.
But how young is the question? And I think 16
I
is
think
too young.
16 is a reasonable age.
I don't. I absolutely don't. And I've known way more 16-year-olds than you. You haven't even known that many 16-year-olds.
But I'm closer to having been 16, so I know
But
how
you're
my brain was
basing
functioning at
this
that age.
on you. You are not you were never the typical child. You were never,
Okay.
definitely not the typical 16-year-old. Like you are not
And you're
like
basing
everybody
it on
else.
a couple of 16-year-olds that
No,
you
I'm
taught.
basing it on being 55 years old, having worked with hundreds of 16-year-olds, having been around for 3 more decades than you,
But
having
you're
all
also
this
looking
life
at it from a
experience.
lens of an older person and a parent, and you think that any 16-year-old is going to be immature. You thought I was immature.
No. I've been saying through this whole segment, there are some 16-year-olds that would make a better informed decision than some older people, but because they are so few and because we cannot necessarily
I feel like there's
trust
only
that.
a few adults that make informed decisions.
No, all adults ain't crazy. Like
A lot
of them are, but not all of them are crazy. And I know, again, being 50, I know hundreds, probably thousands of adults that I know I can trust to make a reasonable decision.
I know a lot of adults that make some real cuckoo wacko decisions.
Yeah, there's some.
And them being a little older, don't
there's
change
some
that.
that need to have their voter registration stripped, but but 16. I think
Well,
is too
in the
young.
comments, we done arguing. And tell me, do you think 16-year-olds should be able to vote,
Please,
and why?
Sign off. Let us know what you think, because I really do think 16 is too young.
Well,
For most, there are some 16-year-olds. Intelligent, well-read, thoughtful, educated 16-year-old. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the ones that I know that, do all kinds of wild and crazy stuff and don't take anything seriously. That's what I'm talking
but
about.
there's
And
so
because-
many adults that do the same thing. You can't base that on.
but you can't,
Anyway, we're moving on.
All right.
Ask a Gemini a much lighter, weirder question than everything else that we talked about. We were just talking about money. We were just talking about politics. So this person tweeted, or
Posted
Xed or
somehow.
whatever, tweeted, which family member would you slap for $50 million?
All of them. All of them. All of them, any of them. And if you can whoop me, I'll take that whooping, because guess what? I got $50 million I'm going to recover in a very cushy hospital. I'm going to slap for $50 million, I'm going to slap any of them, all of them, apologize after I get my money, treat you, and make sure that it was well worth the slap. But I'm going to slap all of them. You.
I was about to say,
all
what
of-
family members?
Honey, yes, ma'am. Consider yourself slapped for $50 million. Now, harm you in some kind of way that can't be repaired. No, but just a slap. You slap,
I
baby.
think the only
You slap.
person. Okay, there's two people. I would not slap grandma. I would feel terrible. I feel like she would be okay with it if I told her after, but I'm not slapping my grandma. That's just disrespectful. That's bad.
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know.
But that's your mom. I would slap you.
Oh, you slap me, but not your grandma?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now that you saying that, my grandma gone, but I don't know if I could have slapped
I would not have been able to slap grandma Edna.
See, because that was a non-issue for me because my grandma's gone. Now that you said, I don't know if I could have slapped my grandma.
I would not walk up to grandma and just be like, wow. Like, that's crazy.
Maybe not my grandma.
I could slap you and be okay. I would just let you know immediately after.
Yeah.
I would not slap Jordan, my 4-year-old cousin.
A child. No children. No child.
No child that could process, and I probably wouldn't slap Macy.
I couldn't slap a child they
wouldn't be able to process what
I was
that
going to
meant.
say that would not, because even if you explain later, this is why they're never going to be able to
like
understand
they would look at me like,
you're
you
right.
abusive a-hole.
Okay,
like,
let me revise my answer. I'm slapping all the adults. All the adults.
And yeah,
because I couldn't slap a child. Like, because a child that would damage their psyche.
They would have to be able to comprehend and understand.
Yeah.
I'm only doing this so we can be better
off. Yeah, not a child that wouldn't understand. I definitely, now that you said it, I hadn't processed it because I knew that was a non-issue for me. I couldn't slap my grandma at all. No. At all. Everybody else, y'all slapped.
Yeah, everybody else is pretty
because we gonna be all right.
I would slap my friends too.
Like, do
that give me bonus points?
Yeah. And there's some people I slap for free.
I think all of my friends would be okay if I slapped them and then handed them a million.
Yeah. Now there's some family members that I'm slapping and running. Like I'm gonna be ready to run.
If I were to slap you, I'm gonna have to sneak and get you and then holler out 25 million.
You gonna have your track shoes on, baby, because if I didn't know what was going on, furniture moving, furniture flipping, all of that, But all adults, they good at slap, and I'll make it up to them. I'll make it worth their while, but they good at slap.
And as my boyfriend said when I asked him this question while we were planning this, do I get 50 million each, or do I have to just pick one individual? Because if I have to pick one individual, then that's a little bit more difficult. Because then I got to be like, okay, who deserves the slap?
Yeah, and then do I get to determine how hard the slap is? And all of that?
You have to think about, okay, who needs the money? That's who gets slapped, or who do you just want to slap?
Yeah.
Who pissed you off yesterday?
Yeah, because like I say, it's some of them out for free, line them up. But I think as long as I was not forbidden to explain to them after the fact, I'm slapping everybody pretty much. Like
when y'all pulling up in a Rolls Royce, y'all know why y'all got
when you
slapped.
can go in there and tell your boss that you don't like. Yeah, you'll be all right with it.
Whole family straight.
Yeah, we good. We when you driving up to the compound, and going down there where your mansion is. We good.
Easy question.
Yeah.
Not difficult at all. All right, so Gemini Gems.
Okay, so 'tis the season, y'all. We are in holiday season, and a lot of people debate over whether to get a Christmas tree or not to get a Christmas tree. I'm going to say if you are someone that wants one, but you don't want the hassle of a full-size tree, get your little mini tree. If you do mini trees, you can have a different tree in each room of the house, or you can have a couple different trees. You can decorate them. They're easy to put away. So if you've got kids, or you just are somebody that loves the holidays, but you don't want to deal with getting a tree, get your little small mini tree. You can get a live one, or you can get an artificial one, whichever one is best for the environment. I can't keep it straight these days. But get a mini tree, get a couple mini trees, decorate them, and then you can easily take those down instead of a full-size tree. I personally, as long as it's not at my house, love a full-size tree, but so that is a holiday possible solution if you are kind of stuck.
Yeah, and then piggybacking off of that is to do the holiday trees, where you do a Christmas tree, a New Year's tree, a Valentine's Day tree, an Easter tree. Yeah, all the different holidays, and then that way you don't have to take it down and put it
immediately.
back up.
You can get a little bit more life out of it instead of having it up for a couple of days.
Or at least do like
down.
a Christmas and a New Year's, and then that extends the season a little bit.
Yeah, extend the season. Yeah. So those are our Gemini Gems for.
Well, with all that being said, we've had a wide range of conversation with this one, but don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Period.